Accel just raises your sense as you move your mouse faster. So as you move your mouse slower, it's going to be a lower sense. Why would that be helpful? Well, that's basically what aim assist is. So if you make the right settings, this just allows you to be more precise and more comfortable. First off, we're going to open the program. Download link in description. Just search it up, download it. Don't click any dumb links. We're going to first start off by going into the menu here. Scale by mouse settings, DPI, set your DPI. You want to consider too, if you're on a really low DPI, like under 800, under 1600, you're probably going to want to raise it, especially if you have a higher polling rate, just to be more accurate. And yeah, so set it to your DPI, and you're going to go polling rate, set it to your polling rate, rescale by above, show last mouse movement, and now we're going to go to the settings. So now if you're on that new DPI and the sense feels too high, you're going to want to lower the sense multiplier, and that's just dividing your sense to make it easier to control. And then we're going to talk about rotation. So essentially, if we open MS Paint here, I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to close my eyes, drawing a line, closing my eyes. Look how straight that is. This is the eyes closed. We're just drawing a line. And you're going to see your guys' line is going to look something like that or that. And you're just going to play with the rotation. Negative usually for most people. So probably around -3. If you hold your mouse more crooked, if you have a smaller mouse, it's going to be a greater significant. And essentially, because when you're moving your wrist, right, and the angle of the sensor, it's going to move sensors like this. It's like an arc. So you have your mouse, and your mouse is going from right to left, and you're going to want to be able to control that. So your sensor is going to look like this, and you basically have to fix it every time because of that arc motion. But if you change the rotation of the sensor, you'll get these nice straight lines. And yeah, and so what that means, right, so let's say you're aiming at a target, and then you have good crosshair placement, you're a normal player. All you're going to have to do is move your mouse right. You don't have to do any other correction, any other thinking. We'll also go into angle snapping later to just make that even more consistent. And then I personally do natural, gain on, decay rate 0.3, input offset 70, just because this DPI is higher than I usually do. For most people this will probably be like 15. And then the limit is what you're going to want to really focus on. So that's how accelerated your mouse will be at the cap. So for most people, you want that around 2 to 1.5. And gain, I only have gain on. It just makes it feel smoother for me, like kind of faster. And you can play with the other settings too. A lot of people do linear. Just Google pros Accel settings. Find what works for you, find what doesn't work for you, and really just play around with it. Yeah, so you're really gonna have to experiment with it, find what works for you. And if you don't know what works for you, like if you're not in tune with your mouse and you can't start thinking about it, Accel really isn't gonna be for you. For the first couple weeks, it's gonna take a lot of experimentation because you're gonna be adapting to the current settings. Like you might even have to, you might change your mouse grip with this, so you're gonna have to replay with the rotation. It's gonna take a lot of focus and effort for the first couple weeks. That's like one of the main setbacks with Accel. You're really gonna have to play with that. So yeah, just play with that. Kovacs, any aim training mode in any game, like custom games or Valbots, those are really helpful. And what you're gonna notice, if you're counter strafing with your target, that's like the only time I find it more difficult with Accel than if you were to have a static sense. But every other scenario, you basically have an advantage if your settings are right. So next up, we're gonna talk about angle snapping. So you can average out your mouse inputs so they become straighter, Why would you want a straighter mouse input? Well, it's just going to make it more consistent to go from point A to point B, which would be your crosshair placement to their head. There's really no disadvantage except for aiming diagonally. Sometimes I will feel a little awkward. I feel like I have to go further than I normally had to. And yeah, so we're gonna go into the raw Accel settings file. So you're just gonna go open the folder wherever you download it, open the settings file, notepad, scroll down or control F for angle snapping, and then once you're here, you're gonna want it below 9, so just less than 9, and anything above that, it starts to kind of just take control of your mouse. 9 is already pretty aggressive. I recommend doing something closer to 4 or 5, and then you can use decimal points, play with it. It's going to take a lot of experimentation. I recommend when you add the angle snapping, you'll want to add that first and then play with your raw Accel settings, because it will change how it feels, because it's going to make you more efficient, because you're going to be going faster, like your lines won't be as crooked, so you're going to be losing space that you had more time with before. So you're just going to want to keep that in mind. Everything affects each other, and you'll have to play with it, but it's all up to you. It's really a lot of preference in finding what works best for you. There's a couple settings just to make your sensitivity more consistent, because Windows automatically has a acceleration built in. So you're going to want to go Windows key, type in mouse settings, additional mouse settings, pointer options, and then enhance pointer precision, turn that off. It's just gonna speed your mouse up randomly, and when that stacks on top of the other one, it's really no good. So yeah. And then also, some people will say that having your mouse on the third tick will also take away some sort of acceleration. So you'll want to go into that pointer options, set it 1, 2, 3, third tick, and that'll make your mouse as accurate as you can. And then in games, make sure there's no acceleration features, and you got it. So essentially, you want your mouse to be as accurate as possible. You're gonna have to play with this a lot. You're gonna have to change the settings constantly, especially for those first couple weeks. I've been playing on the same curve for around like 4 months now, and I really like it. It works really well for me, really fluid. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. That's it.